everybody's always choosing between, do I buy something that already exists or do I go build my own? I mean, to some degree, we're all thinking about that. I mean, some people are not willing to consider building because it's not what they do. So that's fine. But in general, if you look at the market, that is a consideration. So if it just became cheaper to build, now some of the people who would buy resale shift over to building new. Right. Yeah. Some, not all. Welcome back to REI Hot Seat. I've got Jacob Campagnaro with me as per usual.
We got some news.
Some news, or we think we do. I don't know. Do we have news? We'll find out.
So new.
It's so new. It's pretty much impossible to actually get any accurate information on this as of when we're recording it. At the end of the week here, this airs midweek. Yeah. So by the time you're watching this, we'll probably have a lot more information, but we'll give you the basic understanding.
And then we'll do an update.
Once
we have a little bit more.
Okay, so the federal government allegedly is going to announce forgiveness of GST on rental housing. So that would do two things, according to the tweet I'm reading from Jennifer Keith-Matt, who was apparently on CP24 talking about this.
Sure.
Haven't seen it. You were watching that. Okay, so it's basically going to, let's make it real simple. Yeah. If it costs you less money to build, you're more likely to build.
Yes. So I think the whole generality of it is that they're trying to promote new construction rental product.
Yeah, what baffles me is that would come from the federal government because they're insane. Like nothing they do makes any sense. This is the first thing that they've done that actually makes sense. Like I think in 8 years.
Is there an election coming up or something?
I don't know. I think maybe because Trudeau has like the lowest approval rating of this term. So or of his tenure, I think.
Well, that was even the video I was just watching about that. They were so they announced it today. This is like this has been
so
announced.
it is okay. So I was watching a video about and this tweet is from when it happened. So it did happen.
So this happened today. So effective immediately.
Okay, so not going to be retroactive. So all you suckers who self-assessed HST on your rental property, I think you're probably out of luck. Yeah. And I literally saw a friend of mine just posted on an announcement of this saying, "Are you kidding me? I just completed my self-assessment."
So let's see where that goes. And maybe we can talk about this in the update. But I'd like to see where that goes because it's what are they going to do about that?
Yeah.
Right? So, like we're going to have a lot of people that, like you said, just assessed.
So let's break this down for people who aren't following. When you build new townhouses or a new purpose-built triplex,
apartment building, townhouse, any rental purpose product.
I'm going to politely just call them the people at CRA say that you should self-assess HST. So meaning that if you think your building's worth $1 million, you say, hey, this building's worth $1 million. And they say, great, pay us $130,000 in HST, less what you paid your contractors. So if you paid your contractors, $50,000 in HST over the course of the build, you can deduct that and send them a check for the difference. What did CRA do to earn that money, you ask? Let's not ask that question. I was just literally having this discussion with a friend of mine earlier today. He's like, "What? But I don't understand. Like, they're not involved." Like, I'm like, "Are you really questioning this?" It was great. I enjoyed that conversation. But anyways, so we've outlined what this is. So hypothetically, now you might be able to get the HST back that you paid to your contractors, but also not self-assess or not have a payment upon self-assessment.
That's what I believe. Yeah. And so this is the stuff we got to look into a little bit further as this develops.
Right. And I know a key thing to note, I see the word or the letters GST and not HST. So that makes me question, is the province following suit? So the HST is a breakdown of, I believe, 5% GST and then the remainder as PST, combining for that harmony.
So are you still going to have to pay the PST?
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah. I mean, this is the question, right? Like, this is all so new. Like, I literally just heard about this, and
it was announced like this. Like, I don't even know if it was this morning. I think it was like an hour.
Yeah, like an hour ago.
Because I honestly, everything I tried to search, there was nothing there other than a few news articles.
So we were gonna just do a normal episode of like talking about a building, and then we found this, and one of my immediate thoughts is if you just drop off the HST on new builds, you are now going to drive down the value a little. I mean, I'm not saying it could be a monstrous change of all the existing inventory, because now that all because opportunity cost. Now I can just go and build new, and I'm 13%. Well, I mean, let's call it more like 5 to 8% potentially cheaper to build new.
But are you building for less than you're buying for, right? Like let's look at a per door amount, and that's I think where we got away, right?
Well, I mean, there's always an equilibrium. Like so everybody's always choosing between, do I buy something that already exists, or do I go build my own? I mean, to some degree, we're all thinking about that. I mean, some people are not willing to consider building because it's not what they do. So that's fine. But in general, if you look at the market, that is a consideration. So if it just became cheaper to build, now some of the people who would buy resale shift over to building new.
Right. And so what I think, because I like personally, Andrew, I still think you're going to be buying cheaper than you're building right now, at least.
Yeah, I think so too. And because building's darn expensive right now.
You can buy a building, let's say $250 a door, right? That's a good market. That's a good renovated building. That's a purpose-built building. I don't think you're building it for $250 a door, right? Like I think
generally not. Well, we were just talking about a mutual acquaintance. We were talking to him about what he's into on purpose-built rental product with elevators in Toronto, and it's like $350 a door to $400. Including service and connections. So like that's everything except for your soft costs, your development charges and your permit fees and all that. So
so okay, so predictions, I guess, is what we can talk about. Like,
well, before we do that, I wanted to read. So on the screen here, I got one of the reply tweets. So Kendall, I can't even read that last name, but Kendall says, "This is huge. I estimate we will build 1,000 units that were on hold solely due to this." Now, I don't know if he's referring to his own organization or if he's just saying in general, but there's plenty of developers out there who build rental product who may now pull the trigger. Well, they might have been in a holding
exactly
pattern.
What I was about to say.
They might have had actual approvals in hand to proceed,
but the margins were too tight because of interest, burn rates, interest, whatever, and that's what I think this is going to do more than shift people towards building. Like eventually it will, yes, but I don't think the immediate reaction is going to be, okay, I'm not buying resale now. I'm going to start developing more. I think the reaction is going to be, hey, because let's be realistic. We look at, $1 million development project. That's very, very small potatoes. Imagine this GST across a $100 million, $200 million, $300 million project. Like what's the HST on that, or the GST, excuse me, on that, right? Now we're talking margins of millions of this tax that you're paying. So, if that's the difference now,
you're talking that could be profit and not profit.
That's profit or not profit, right?
Yeah,
on a $1 million build, sure. At 100,000, not 100,000, yes, it is still profit. But when we're talking, $1 billion projects, hundreds of $1 million projects, that's numbers quite substantial, and that's now profit.
Well, you think about it. It's on the end value, which is the hypothetical value you would sell the building for. That's what the assessment's on. So if it ends up being just the GST, well, that's 5% savings. Less what you get back from the contractors. So we'll call it in the 2.5% to 3% range. If it's both GST and PST, we're talking something closer to probably 10% almost. That's monstrous for a developer, as you're pointing out. So what would that do? That's like a little WD-40 on that one, and grease it up a little bit, and things are moving.
Things are moving. Fire up the tractor.
So, I mean, we're talking, if this is, it could be too good to be true, and we might find out when the dust settles that this isn't accurate, but I think that, we've heard some positive indication that this is happening. So if this is what happens, like we're talking a lot of people who are on the sidelines kick it into high gear and build. Yeah. I think because the uncertainty they have about the market and values is not going to be offset by the fact that, we're going to save. No. We're going to save significant here. No.
So it's interesting. So let's see what happens, Andrew. Like again, this is a short little sweet episode. I think we should do a follow-up episode on this, but this is pretty fresh news. I think it's as fresh as you can get.
Yeah.
And we wanted to let our listeners know about it and see what they think. And
well, for sure.
We'd love to hear it. Put it in the comments.
Yeah. What do you think about this? And as you have the updates, like if you hear more or more than we've covered here, by all means, feel free to throw them in the comments. Yeah. Because the chronology of video editing and all that, it's a part of this. But I did want to point out, I've said so many times that the interest rate hikes are a plumber trying to fix a leak with a hammer. It's stupid. It only addresses one side of the problem, and when you consider that CPI factors in housing cost, as they increase interest rates, they actually drive up housing costs. That drives up the CPI. It's
We've
again,
talked about this before. Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah.
So this is the first time that they've done something to address supply.
Yeah.
First time.
Which is nice to see.
Yeah, it's nice.
Right.
Like, I'd love to see the province follow suit.
Yep.
I mean, think about what else you could do. Let's just go ahead and drop off development charges. Let's go ahead and drop off any other tax that we're adding in. And all of a sudden, we can take care of the housing crisis.
Right? Even if they can put a program in place to help reduce DCs.
Well, you know that it has reduced in Toronto, right? I heard,
Yeah.
people were saying 130,000 a unit or something, but now with the new legislation, 4 units, no DCs. Correct. So I have it here from City of Hamilton, one of the published meetings.
10 units.
Yeah, up to 10 units under Bill 23 is now exempt from site plan approval. Yep. And you know what? There's something else that does address supply. So we're seeing a few things that address supply. Nice to see. That could help bring some prices down eventually as the supply kicks up on the market because of it. So chain reaction. It's nice to see something that makes sense happen.
Yep. I think if we can keep interest rates where they are, right,
and address the supply issue.
I'm not going to say, I'm not going to sit here and say drop them, because it's. I think if you drop them too quick, we're going to be back in this where we were a year ago. So I do think, stabilize the interest rate market, start coming out with more programs like this. Let's get that supply up, which then helps the cost across the board, and I think we'll be in a much healthier market. Yeah.
So recap here. It's nice to see people keeping a bit more money in their pocket, helping the supply issue, and this could be good for Ontario landlords. But let us know what you think. Like, do you see a downside to this? Are you happy overall? I mean, of course, there's the chance that if you already paid it, you're probably kind of disappointed. But let us know in the comments, and we will see you again next week.
Right on.